All right, I'm going to call the June 18, 2018 Green City Council meeting to order. And roll call, please.
Councilor Westover?
Here.
Councilor Warren?
Here.
Councilor Baker?
Here.
Councilor Schneider? Councilor Shunk?
Here.
Mayor Les?
Here.
And Councilor Cameron is on absence.
Excuse absence. All right.
Excuse, thank you.
All right. Pledge allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have one presentation this evening by Kristen Wick of Park Insurance. And you guys, maybe she wants to talk about how we got to this point regarding why we wanted to have someone from the insurance world talk to us.
Yeah, Kristen Wick, I actually asked her to come and speak with you, answer any questions you may have. A while back, I guess there was some concerns in regards to the way our volunteers either work on our property or volunteer for the city. And just due to my history and what I know about insurance and our liability, it raised concern with me. And so I asked Kristen to come up and share with you what that looks like. Part of that is because council has talked several times about having volunteers run the Civic Center. And although that would be a last end resort, it's something that I do have to look at because we have a rare participant coming on in September. And if they are coming on, they're guaranteed. But if for some reason the Civic Center doesn't bring in the cash flow that we need to help maintain it and to staff it, we may have to look at some other things. But also we wanted to try to recruit more volunteers for the city because we have our part-time filling our boards and our positions. And so it was just trying to get out there and making connections to get people more involved with the city of Phoenix and to really begin building it to be something that, I mean, we all want something really wonderful here. And so that was the whole thing together.
What took place in community garden also?
This will also, Kristen can answer any questions you have in regards to the community garden as well. She can answer any questions you have about volunteers, volunteers working on city property, because that's a big one, when you have volunteers who work on city properties.
We have a community garden for a number of years, we've been down there, and they do their gardening on a little plot. And there are some things that they're taking over as a duty as compared to the city staff. One of those is pulling weeds around the 10-foot perimeter around the community gardens. Instead of spraying, they're going to pull weeds as opposed to spraying near their plants. And because they are pulling weeds, they're doing something that the city
Now, whether
Who
you.
organizes that?
So,
The community
Yeah.
garden.
Community garden,
I
yeah.
remember seeing it on the budget every year.
Volunteer, they pay for it here, but they do it places. They pay for that here?
So then that community garden club, that's their volunteers, not the city's volunteers.
okay,
That's
but-
where you kind of get back to whose volunteers are these?
But then there's a certain perimeter around the community garden that will typically be weeded by our staff, and they take on that duty.
Got it.
But because they're taking on that duty and doing that weeding that a staff member would typically do, that's where we need the liability insurance. Yeah.
And so keep in mind, liability surrounds negligence. You have to be found negligent. You've done something negligent in order for somebody to put under general liability coverage. There has to be a tort that's been neglected. And so that starts a general liability claim.
And of course, something about the Easter egg hunt and about there's events we have. We have dog days this summer where the people, they take a hose and they fill up a pool and the dogs jump in the pool and they play around. One gal leads the dogs around the park and they have a little parade. Those are volunteers. Do they need to be supervised by a staff member while they're,
You need to know who's there, when they're there, how long they're there, and what day they're there.
so there'll be a sign up that says, hey, I arrived this time, left at this time here. But do they actually need a staff member to supervise them, or can a
No,
can a
when I say
volunteer?
supervise, we know supervise is an overall. What are these people doing? What days
Yeah.
are they gonna be there? Somebody at the city needs to be coordinating that,
Mhm.
knowing that we've got these people that are gonna be doing this dog walk on this day.
Right.
This is the contact person.
Sure.
We've told them, here's the protocols you wanna work within,
Mm-hmm.
whatever safety, protocols you need to bring up with them. That's supervising and managing that volunteer operation.
So the volunteer managing or supervising the volunteers. We did something very similar when we were building the band shelter on Blue Heron Park. We were out there banging the on ladders. We had a sign-up sheet and, well, that's what we
That
did.
stuff scares me.
Well, but what we did, we had a sign-up sheet that said when you were there, when you left.
Mhm.
And we kept track of the volunteers.
Yeah, and again, are you following all the OSHA protocols with those construction projects?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where you get yourself in trouble, because if somebody gets injured, then all that stuff starts stacking of what you didn't do correctly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So even if the community garden is, say they are tenants at $40 a year, if we're going to have volunteers at the community center, then that would be a traditional volunteer type situation.
Yeah, all the volunteers, anybody who volunteers at the Civic Center, the people who volunteer for Dog Days of Summer and they drive around getting supplies for that. I mean, anything where anybody is volunteering and doing something for the city and they're not getting paid for it. Yes.
Okay, so we need to get that organized, is what the recommendation is. Have someone on point for a volunteer organization.
Is that us?
And see, a lot of cities have decided that they're not going to do this, they're gonna have those other organizations manage those volunteers, so they're not the city's volunteers. Yeah, like in Jacksonville, we've probably got 6 different organizations there. And what we did out at Jacksonville is because this was huge for them, because they got park trails that they had guys out building bridges, doing all this stuff. And our carrier was very, very uncomfortable with it, from a liability standpoint and a work comp standpoint, because we had none of this controls in it. Nobody knew who was there when they were there. So it's really hard to defend the claim coming in, because we're not managing it. We don't know that we have that activity going on or what was being done. So we get this liability claim because a third party's been injured some way. How do we defend that? We don't know what's happening. Does that make sense? So it's really about putting parameters around it so that you can at least know what your risk is. Right now, we don't know what our risk is because anything could happen and we don't have documentation of these volunteers coming and going. We have no idea.
And Kristen, the city currently does not maintain a separate insurance policy for volunteers, correct?
We just purchased an accident
We
policy.
did, okay.
Yeah, so what we decided to do was, because we had this gap and we didn't know what to do, we can purchase $100,000 for accident, volunteer accident. It gives $100,000 to any one person for one accident, and there's some 25,000 of the disablement, those were words I don't like to use. And so what will happen there is that policy is an excess policy. It will pay co-pays, it will pay deductibles, or it will pay the whole claim if that volunteer does not have insurance. Okay? I've been through one of those claims, and pretty much what they want to see is the EOB from the insurance company or statement that there's no coverage, and they pay whatever that billing is with a copy of the bill. So that's just kind of just in case we had somebody that didn't have health insurance, really was kind of a fallback for us. It's not something we were trying, hey, we've got this insurance policy for you, because then all of a sudden people get insurance, things like.
So it sounds like some of the initial kind of work that we should be doing on this is, like you're saying, is to create some volunteer infrastructure and have define like who's a volunteer for us. Maybe, and I don't know if this is, I mean, this is a conversation for a city manager to do. I know, Kimberly, you've been doing a lot of the volunteer work, so I don't know how much of this you're managing. But it would make sense to me to have like another tab in our spreadsheet that has all of our board members for our different commissions. Just another tab of volunteer members. And do we actually have a volunteer application or?
Sure. I'm creating one. Well, it's
Okay.
actually done.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So then we'll actually have people's names and their contact information, and then we can keep a list of like who's doing what and have them kind of on file. So it sounds like we just need to start developing some of that infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Jacksonville, I actually did develop some of the systems in there because I was on board when all that was coming about. So I have a little bit of experience and I can start putting something together.
Okay.
And Kristen has sent over templates that I did actually start already working on, but then I stopped because I just didn't know where you guys were going.
Yeah.
I didn't want to waste my time.
Yeah. No, thank you for doing all that. I think that seems like the right way to go, y'all.
Yeah, so what we did out in Jacksonville, because all these organizations that do different things, we had cemetery, we have the historical society, we have all sorts of stuff going on out there. But they offered, the city offered, because all these people were going, well, we don't want that to be our responsibility, we don't have $300 to pay for this policy. So what we did out there is they made an agreement with these different clubs and associations that if they put in so many hours for the city would get them the $300 to purchase that accident insurance policy. So it's worked pretty nice. Yeah, so I will make sure that we get this to you, but there's definitely some guidelines for how to set this program up, you know, how to put a volunteer program together. You should really screen your volunteers. If they're around elderly or kids, they need background checks. I mean, that's just, I know it sounds like, but if they're your volunteer, if any of that stuff happens, it's your liability. I know, I'm not done. I'm kind of a party killer, but there is ways to do it. It's just, let's figure out the best practice way to do it. And you're not going to agree with all the things I recommend. That's fine. You know, you just need to know what you're opening yourself up to.
Great.
The autos are concerning because it's hard to know if people even have insurance anymore. I mean, even if they give you proof of their auto coverage, they could be canceled the next day. You'll never know. You can't keep up on that.
So we have an ACON and we have 30 volunteers out there from city council to the people, the firemen, the policemen, who are out there. We gotta have, everyone's volunteering at that point has to have a background check before they can volunteer and help the kids get out there and collect the eggs.
If that's what you decide, if they're a city volunteer, and that's why a lot of cities chose to push this into different organizations.
From a practical standpoint, with such an event such as that, as opposed to being, say, a Boy Scout leader, a Cub Scout leader, or maybe a soccer coach, or an ongoing soccer coach, would it really make sense to have everyone that happens to show up on particular volunteer day to help the kids get out there in the field and collect Easter eggs to do background checks?
Again, I'm talking best practice. You guys can do whatever you feel comfortable with, wherever you think you've got adequate controls on. Yeah. I'm just telling you, those are some of the pitfalls where we see clients and we see really big issues. Yeah, the big problem with that is anybody can allege anything on our insurance companies that have defense. Somebody's gonna allege that they were inappropriately touched by one of our volunteers, and guess what? We get a good reliability.
Well, thank you.
It's not impossible, it's just, you know, I will have him forward around to you guys all the best practice. And the best practice is put a program together, pick a coordinator, one person that's that coordinator. Do volunteer registrations, which there's a waiver form on the back of that, explain what they are. If you had some job descriptions as simple of what some certain ones were, that would be good. Not too many people are doing job descriptions. And
of this conversation,
Okay.
have this
Yeah.
conversation later.
Right, right. And Kim probably got a little excited about it because this was a big process to pass. Because they didn't go on for so many years. And it took about 3 months to get it rolled out.
Talk about we leverage off that experience that she had in
Yes.
Jacksonville and
Yes.
do her thing.
And just remember what Kim was telling you, probably coming from the CIS was manager. Okay. Perfect, thanks, Cindy.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Right, Jeff.
Next up was public comments. We have Katie Farrell. Well, Katie, state your name and address, give 3 minutes, tell us about your idea.
Okay,
Yes.
have some handouts for you to leave you because these are big ideas and I'm living at 716 First Street in Phoenix. I served on your planning commission for about 3 years, around 2007, 8 and somewhere around in there. And I, at that time, also tried to bring some interesting ideas to Phoenix. I also have an office at 107 West First Street, Center for Creative Change. It's a gallery and sort of a outreach for ideas, and we share that with Beyond Toxics and the Pollinator Project, and you've probably seen some of us here before. I was really excited to see your community enhancement and tourist promotion grant application, and so I revisited 3 projects that I often have felt could land in Phoenix. One of them was a regional art museum, which I had worked on years ago with Lindsay Berryman when she was the mayor of Medford. And we had hoped to get the Carnegie building for that use, but between the county and city of Medford, there was just a lot of back and forth. So that's a project that still has a great need in the valley in a growing metropolitan area. We had lots of partners with the Snyder Museum and RCC, the Historical Society, on and on. A lot of people agreed. So if that ever is something you're interested in, I'd love to hear about it. The second thing is something I'm really actively working on right now with a group called the Drawdown Project, which is the research of 100 solutions or more to reverse global warming, created by Paul Hawken and a huge research team. And this is Southern Oregon is one of the test markets to try to bring teams together for these solutions. So I'm heading the materials sector. There's 8 sectors, but one of the great needs in between Phoenix and South Medford right now is to create a kind of state-of-the-art recycling effort. So we're looking at seeing what kind of land is available, trying to possibly partner with road disposal or Recology, but actually it's kind of looking like the quickest way to address this bottleneck is through public-private kind of organizing. All this is written down. The third idea was one that I had a lot of fun with. I'm an artist, so I do a lot of conceptual pieces, but this was kind of playing on our original name of Phoenix, Gasburg, and it was a project called Gasburg, Where Fossil Fuel is History. And this was sort of to position the idea that if we could encase the history and our love of cars and automotive industry, and especially with Phoenix sort of being a 1950s theme with the bikes and the automobiles and a big focus here, to have this car museum, actually a museum that would sort of enshrine the history of fossil fuel, and perhaps by encapsulating that in a place where we honor it, we'll have an easier time also of moving forward. So I wrote all these ideas down. I probably will think about some application. I'm going to look for the mayor into what's available in terms of community development block grant money. I've worked on that in Ashland and now over here, but I also, in my past life, ran a public housing authority, so I know a little bit about that money, and hopefully if we could tap that, there'd be a lot more resources available. So I guess I have my phone number and my contact information on these handouts, and I'm just going to give them to your city recorder there and she can pass them out. But I'd love to hear back from you if you think there's any land that might be available or any city buildings that maybe I can put hundreds of people together on any of these projects. And I really think any one of them could be a draw. You know, Phoenix to me could be the coolest place in the valley where people who want to get out of the tourism in Ashland or get out of this kind of business sector in Medford would come to Phoenix and say, wow, this is where we can really kind of relax and feel at home. So I hope that these will be at least amusing to you. And if there's any interest, let me know and we'll move forward. We will be moving forward on the recycling portion of that, and I'm hoping to bring a proposal to the mayor and whoever else is interested in the next month or two. So at least we can have a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Sharon, do you want to speak when we do the proclamation? Or do you want to speak? Do you want to speak when we do the proclamation, or do you want to speak also?
That would be great. Thank you very much. I appreciate being given both opportunities. I'm Sharon Schmidt. I'm the 4601 South Pacific Highway, and I'm here to talk with you once again about the pollinator mural. So, Bee City USA has actually affiliated with the Xerces Society. I don't know if any of you heard of the Xerces Society. It was named after the extinct Xerxes mom. Have you heard that before? Okay. I'm here to tell you how prestigious it is, but unfortunately, sadly, you have not heard it already, so you'll have to take my word for it. The Xerces Society is called upon constantly by people who are seeking experts in ecology and insect, specifically butterfly and bee and pollinator management, gardening. We have a terrific site on the web. I would urge you to look at it. At any rate, we have this opportunity to affiliate with what is in the ecological world a very prestigious organization. And to that end, I would like to also lobby to keep the name the Bee City USA Pollinator Mural. And I'm hoping that the City Council will actually give it a formal name. Part of the reason that we started this was to raise the profile of Bee City USA as a committee. And so if that name changes to something else, then we've kind of lost that opportunity. So I'd like to appeal to you to give us that opportunity and to continue to support Bee City USA. Any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Next up, we have two public hearings. First, you want to stand up? I don't want to see you. I didn't see you there.
My name is Marcia Monso. I live at 3558 South Pacific Highway. I have served on the Planning Commission since October of 2016, and I recently had to move out of the city of Phoenix. I was told that I had to live in the city to stay on the Planning Commission. I am trying to move back into the city, and as soon as one of my applications is approved, I will be back in the city. I'm asking if I can stay on the Planning Commission until I move back, or what the city council would want me to do.
Okay. You know, we're probably not going to make a determination tonight. We'll have to speak to city manager or city planner, look at the ordinance and see what we can do. Unless you guys have already looked at it and want to comment on it.
Well, I can. The code stipulates that a member of the Planning Commission must live in the city limits, and up to 2 members of the Planning Commission can live within the urban growth boundary, but not in the city. Now, my understanding is that you have moved outside the urban growth boundary as well.
Yeah.
So, technically, you would not want to have a planning commissioner who does not fit the criteria attending planning commission meetings and voting on matters that come before the planning commission because it could give rise to a challenge of the validity of the action. The code is silent about what happens in this situation. So when the code is silent, the charter provision that gives the council basically complete domain over all matters of citywide concern comes into play, and you can kind of make a decision as you go along in terms of what to do in this situation because the code doesn't address it. What I would suggest is that you simply not attend planning commission meetings, and that the council, perhaps at the end of the meeting under other business from the council, make a motion to place her on leave from the planning commission until such time as she moves back into the city or back into the urban growth boundary. However, I do think you should put some kind of time limit on it so that it doesn't become a matter of years and we're waiting for you to move back into the city of Phoenix. I think you can agree that that's not reasonable.
But they just clarify, she could attend as a member of the public and stay in
Yes, she
tune,
could.
but just not participate, right?
Correct.
Yeah. How long do you think, Marcia, before you're back?
The first application I put in, they told me that it would be 90 days or less. That was 6 months ago. So other places, what I put in today, they told me that they will let me know within a couple of days. That's what I would prefer because I love living in Phoenix. I think that Phoenix is the greatest place in the world.
And Dave, you're saying we can take action on this tonight, or should we just agendize this for action?
You can do it at another time.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let them know.
You could. There's nothing that prevents you from acting on it tonight. If you would prefer to actually put it on the agenda and give the public notice that you're doing this, you could do it at your next meeting.
I don't think it's an emergency type
No,
action.
it's not.
Yeah. No, we have she's not there, we still have a quorum. We have one extra as far as the quorum goes, right? Yeah, okay. So, well, with your permission, why don't we agendize this for next meeting and we can take care of it then?
Yeah, I
Is
think
there
the more
planning-
open.
Is there a planning commission in the meantime though? Or?
She can't participate one way or the other.
Evan, do you have anything to add? It looks like.
Well, I just wanted to be here in case there were questions. Our next meeting is canceled. We don't have any items on the agenda, so we won't have another meeting at least till July, after your next meeting.
But she can't participate one way or the other.
Well, correct, and that was, what Dave brought up was exactly my concern, was that the last thing we want is for someone to challenge a decision of the commission on a technicality essentially, but
Right.
I also am not in favor of booting Marcia from the planning commission.
No.
She's doing a good job.
Sure is.
So if we do a leave, make a motion for a leave of absence basically, then once she moves back into Phoenix, she can just pick up where she left off on the planning commission and doesn't have to be brought back on, reappointed.
Yeah,
Is that
leave
how
of
it
absence
works?
would be terminated automatically, I think. Put work in there.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks for your service.
Thanks for being on it, yeah.
Thank you.
Next item up is resolution number 1015, a resolution adopting the budget, making appropriations and levying and categorizing taxes for fiscal year 2018-19 for the city of Phoenix. This is a public hearing, and Dave, do you want a staff talk?
Just want to have Jeanette explain that there is, in this resolution, a difference between what the budget committee approved and what we are proposing to adopt.
What David's referring to is the error that I noticed in preparing the proposed or the adopted budget, the resolution 1015. Did everybody receive the email that I sent out? Okay. So basically what I was letting everybody know was I discovered this discrepancy of $23,000 843 that should have been included in the building department fund for expense. And that changed the total unappropriated balance to $2,186,914. And it doesn't change anything to the budget, but what it does do though is creates a necessary amendment to your motion adopting the budget. Other than that, if there were any changes whatsoever from before to now, it would have been what we decided we were spending this year versus next year.
This would be a $22,814 building department amendment.
Yes, basically when I was transferring all the numbers over, I missed one of them.
So can you give me the exact number again?
Do you have a copy of the amendment that you need to read?
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Increasing the building department expense. But again, as Jeanette said, this does not change the total appropriation budget. It simply changes 2 line items within the total appropriation.
Was there anything else staff wants to add before we open the public hearing? Okay. Thank you. With that said, I'm gonna open the public hearing for resolution number 1015. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of resolution 1015? Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Open up the discussion. Council, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 1015, adopting the budget, making appropriation levy and categorizing taxes for fiscal year 2018-2019, with the amendment of increasing the building department expense, increasing the total unappropriated amount by $23,804.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Westover?
Yes.
Counselor Warren?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Schneider?
Yes.
Counselor Shunt?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is another public hearing for resolution number 1016, a resolution declaring the city's election to receive state share resources. Anything from staff? Or a housekeeping item that we do every single year?
Is necessary in order to receive funds. So hold a public hearing both at the budget committee level and then at the governing body level.
We'll open up the public hearing for resolution number 1016. All's in favor of 1016? Anybody opposed to 1016? Hearing none. Discussion by staff, by council. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 1016, declaring the city's election to receive state share revenues.
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Shunt?
Yes.
Counselor Schneider?
Yes.
Counselor Westover?
Yes.
Counselor Warren?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Next up is a proclamation for B-City USA. You want to come back up here? Do you have anything to say about your proclamation?
What?
Or did you want to say anything about your proclamation or anything else about B-City?
Yeah, we just, I think that what the commission has done in accepting a city as an entity is to make people aware that we value pollinators. The more we value pollinators, the more we can exhibit our value of, I think, public lands, children's safety in parks. I know that's a big statement, but it's kind of true. There are a lot of people
areas that are necessary for maintaining healthy, diverse urban and suburban ecosystems, and whereas pollination plays a vital role for the trees and plants of our community, enhancing our quality of life and creating recreational and economic development opportunities, and whereas for decades, the city of Phoenix has managed urban landscapes and public lands that include many municipal parks and greenways, as well as wildlife habitats, and whereas the city of Phoenix provides recommendations to developers and residents regarding landscaping to promote wise conservation and stewardship, including the protection of pollinators and maintenance of their habitats in urban and suburban environments. And now, therefore, I, Chris Luz, Mayor of the City of Phoenix, do hereby proclaim the week of June 18th to 24th, 2018 as the city's observance of National Pollinator Week, and the City of Phoenix as an affiliate of PCUSA, and urge all citizens to recognize and observe this observance. Witness heroes, I hereby set my hand on this 18th day of June 2018. And that's it.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Chris.
Sharon.
Thank you, Council.
Give
We
this to you.
appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
I hear unto someone hand. What does that even mean, this kind of ordinance? The language is just funny enough, but I hear unto someone hand.
I know, I had to look at that.
Thank you very much.
I feel like we should have a picture.
You want your picture?
We'll take it later.
All right.
We'll bring the props again.
Mayor.
Yes.
So before we move on to the subject of V-City USA, there's an issue I need to bring to your attention. We've been doing some research this afternoon, and as you're aware, in May of 2015, the City Council adopted a resolution authorizing the city to apply for V-City USA status. And as part of that resolution, the city agreed to, and I'm quoting, establish, maintain a subcommittee of an appropriate municipal body or department comprised of citizens and staff and employees charged with assembling and disseminating information on topics of pollinator friendly habitat, et cetera, and so on. I won't read the whole thing. We cannot find any record of the council having ever appointed such a subcommittee or having appointed members of the V-City USA subcommittee. I was told when I came back as your interim city manager that the V-City USA subcommittee was a subcommittee of the Parks and Greenway Commission. For code, the Parks and Greenway Commission does not have the authority to appoint a subcommittee. Only the council can do that. So, bottom line here is it appears we have a committee of people who are not an official city committee or a subcommittee of any other city committee. And I think that probably need to rectify this as soon as possible. And what I would recommend is that either at your next meeting or the following meeting, the people who are at least putatively members of the V-City USA subcommittee should fill out applications for appointment, and the council should actually create a V-City USA subcommittee of the Parks and Greenway Commission to make all of this official.
May I speak to that at all?
I'll give you a moment, Sharon. We're going to come back. Go ahead. Take just a moment.
Oh, come back.
Yeah.
So, might I suggest that we check in with Jeff Bella, Mayor Bella, former Mayor Bella, who was presiding over the council at the time that this committee was formed.
You know, I don't want to disturb I could give him a call, but I mean, we can make it official and do the whole thing like we just mentioned, as staff just recommended, and that should take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So then does the city recognize us over the last 3 years, or how does that work?
Of course, we recognize your efforts and everything you've done. We just need to make it official.
So, yeah, I feel like somebody who got married and then suddenly said they we just can't find your records, and I'm kind of like, well, we were here in front of the person and we got our certificate and we have a sign, we have pictures of the whole event.
You're fine. We just need to make it an official committee,
need to make
as
sure
a
it's on the
subcommittee.
record.
And, yeah, we do appreciate
So
what
this
you've
was
done.
recording error is what is being said.
Who knows, it could have been, but
Okay,
we'll make it right, okay?
all right, and
All right.
thank you.
Thank you. Anything else you guys want to add? And you're saying just throw us on a future agenda to make it official, right? Okay. Go ahead, Aaron's to-do list.
Long list.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. I'm gonna pull one thing from the consent agenda. It's the school resource officer item, but does anybody else want to pull anything from the consent agenda? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda except for item A1.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes. No, I've asked the chief to come up and talk about the school resource officer, given the environment that we're in with some violence that happens in some schools. I thought it'd be good for the public to hear from the chief about what the school resource officer does and how to protect our kids.
Council.
Hello. Thank you, by the way. Come on up and do his thing.
Oh, okay. So the school resource officer program has been around since long before I got here. There's a school resource officer over there when I was here, when I arrived in 2005. It wasn't until recently, probably 2007 or so, when the school resource officer program really took hold as far as what they were supposed to be doing over there and things like that. And Janet Bailey took that on in the beginning, did a good job for a few years and then retired. And for the last couple of years, it's been Officer Glenn Patchett. He does a fantastic job. We work closely with all the schools in the Phoenix Talent School District. We do break up some of the duties as far as there is an elementary school over in Medford off of Wamparo that it's in the Medford city proper, and so Medford Police Department handles most of everything there. And the Talent Police Department will handle a lot of the things at the talent schools, but Officer Patchett does rotate through all of the schools. We teach the lockdown drills and things to do in case of emergencies and things like that, and we offer whatever services the schools really offer. And I think the big change that Glenn has brought, especially in the last couple of years, is he has gotten away from a punishment style of law enforcement in the schools, where when Janet was there, it was more anytime a child did something wrong, if it fit a crime, they got hit with the crime. The last 2 years, we've tried to get away from that. We try to let the school district handle as much of the issues as we possibly can. There will be certain circumstances where, you know, if one of the children commit a crime that is too egregious to let slide, then we would step in and handle that. But for the most part, Glenn's done a fantastic job working with the school district and trying to keep the students, you know, out of the system as much as possible. And I think he's done a great job doing that.
During the environment that we're in, safety issues, it's nice to have someone there that's armed and ready and.
Yeah, and he does a good job. I think with the bond that passed and the new schools that are going to be built, it's going to relieve a lot of that pressure as far as the security of the school. The school district right now does a terrific job of you know, one single point of entry and things like that. So they, you know, the school district's really stepped up, really listened to Lieutenant Price on suggestions as far as trying to make the schools safer in the area. So.
Any questions for the chief?
One just education here. There's one part of the document that talks about funding. And unless I misread it, it talks about them reimbursing the city.
Correct.
As a formula. Just for our education, is that a one-time a year reimbursement, or they do it monthly, or how's the cash flow happen on that? At the end of the year?
She
right?
sends the bill, so once a year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So,
The document itself talks to the Phoenix High School, and that's a very large organization.
right.
But I didn't see anything in there mentioning, so maybe you can edify. There's other schools within the city, like there's a charter school not too far from the high school.
Right.
Do you have an interface with them also?
Yes.
As part of the program?
He does go over there. They are part of the school district, so Officer Patchett does. The reason why most of it's applied to the high school is basically because they've supplied him with an office space over there. So he comes to work, grabs his computer and things like that. He's at the school the rest of the day. It's usually at the high school, unless there's an issue at Armadillo Tech or the elementary school.
So part of their funding actually pays for the charter school and whatever else?
Well, he's an SRO for the school district. He's not an SRO for the Phoenix High School, although that's where his office is. So he goes anywhere in the district where he's needed. But Talon tries to handle most of the things that happen there, and Rick doesn't like us playing in their sandbox, so we try not to.
Does Patch do the lockdown, lockout training for Town Elementary, Town Middle, and Orchard Hill?
Medford does Orchard Hill.
Do you know who the SRO that's over Orchard Hill is?
I do not. I don't know. The only one I knew was retired last year. I don't know who the new one is. But Officer Patchett and Lieutenant Price both help out at the talent schools with the talent police department. They do those as well.
Your talent will be first on scene for any responses of talent.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing is, in Medford, a lot of the employees went through ALICE training. Has that been offered to any of the Phoenix talent?
We are getting ready to, we'll probably be kicking that off this next year. Lieutenant Price just went through the instructor training.
Nice.
So he's an ALICE instructor now, and so we're trying to start implementing that stuff.
Okay. The ALICE training's like that. I forget what the acronym, that active live shooter training, essentially, right?
Yes.
Where it's like a role play almost, like there's an active shooter in the building and how you respond to it. Which is pretty, my wife went through it, she said it was scary.
And we actually during the summers, we do, I don't say live training, but we do active shooter training in the high school and over at the elementary school. We do, every once in a while, we try to get role players and things like that. Usually it's me running around getting shot with the sim rounds because nobody else wants to do it.
The other question I had was, would it make sense to have him go through the Resolve Restorative Justice trainings?
I don't know exactly how in depth he's gotten involved in those kinds of things, so I really don't know.
Because there's a lot, most people in the Rose Valley are getting trained on in the educational system, and he's involved in some of the disciplinary things that may be worthwhile. It's a 4-day training, where most people in schools, everybody's cycling 4 to 8 people in their schools through each year.
Yeah, if that's something that the school district would like him to do, I'd more than be willing to support that and send him to that.
Yeah, Janet used to like to run.
Thanks, Steve, appreciate it.
Thank you.
On page 12, so I can read the motion, appreciate it.
I move approval of agreement regarding the school resource officer for 2018-2019 school year with Phoenix Talent Schools.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Great, thank you. Now we're going down to item 10, resolution 1018, resolution certifying the city of Phoenix provides for more municipal services in accordance with requirements of ORS 221 .760. I think basically a housekeeping item. Staff wanna talk to it, or?
As you said, it's a housekeeping item.
Yep.
You need to do every year.
Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Let me read the right ones.
All right.
I move to approve resolution number 1018, certifying that the city of Phoenix provides 4 or more municipal courts.
Second.
Okay, more discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Westover?
Yes.
Counselor Warren?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Shum?
Yes.
Counselor Snyder?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is 10B, employment agreement with the Phoenix Urban Renewal Agency for operation of the Phoenix Plaza Civic Center.
Again, it's the same idea that you just approved as the open renewal board, to stipulate that the city will operate the facility and provide property insurance until such time as title transfers from the open renewal agency, which should happen in about every 80 days.
Discussion. All right, motion please.
I move approval of an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Phoenix and the Urban Renewal Agency for operation and maintenance of the Civic Center. Second.
More discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Westover?
Yes.
Counselor Warren?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Shum?
Yes.
Counselor Snyder?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I caught that midstream.
Yeah, I told them about it.
Next item up is item 11. It's the first reading by title only ordinance 996 ordinance for the city of Phoenix repealing ordinance number 911 and vacating Phoenix Municipal Code 2.14 and providing for an effective date of this ordinance. Second reading public hearing is July 2nd, 2018. This is the ordinance that repeals our current community development.
Economic Development Council.
Economic Development Council.
I move approval on first reading by the title only of ordinance number 996 and ordinance repealing ordinance 911 and vacating Phoenix Municipal Code 2.14 and move the ordinance to second reading.
Wow, well done. I'll second that.
More discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Snyder?
Yes.
Counselor Westover?
Yes.
Counselor Warren?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Shum?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Now with the staff reports, city attorney's not here, but this is our interim city manager's last, report. Anything to report, sir?
I talked to Chris about this a little bit earlier. I had mentioned in my June 8th weekly department update that Jeanette had done some financial projections for me, and it was my opinion that you would probably need to identify a revenue source in terms of sustain current level of general fund services, probably within the next 5 years. And I want to emphasize that a 5-year financial projection is really not something that you can put a whole lot of stock in. The projection that I had Jeanette do for me, and I was actually trying to see if it was even possible to fit debt service on the police station, City Hall, but that type of projection assumes that you are going to spend 100% of what you budget every year, and that you are going to collect no more in revenue than what you budget every year. And yeah, it goes negative, deeply negative, when you get 5 years. The reality is that never happens. The city of Phoenix, on average, over the course of the last 5 years, has underexpended general fund by 8% of its budget, and you have over-collected revenues by about 8% of what was budgeted. And I have not had Jeanette rerun the numbers to see, okay, well, what happens if that trend continues out into the future? I suspect that it changes the calculus. It may not change it enough that you shouldn't be thinking about what would a new revenue source for the city be. I think that there are a lot of things that you can't predict. for instance, what is going to happen to PERS rates after the biennium that follows the upcoming biennium. That's something that is unknown at this point. What's going to happen with inflation? Are we going to get another recession? There are lots of things that go into this. But I did just want to plant the seed that this is something that the city of Phoenix may want to be thinking about, not necessarily next year, next budget cycle, or even the budget cycle after that, but something that should not drop off your radar screen. And I think the city has not done these types of financial projections in the past, as far as I can tell.
We've done 3-year ones, regularly.
I think it's a very healthy exercise to do and to update with each budget cycle and take a look and change some of the assumptions that you're doing as you do these projections. But I will tell you, based on my experience, that it is not at all unusual when you do this kind of long-range projection to project a negative fund balance 4 or 5 years into the future. That's not at all unusual. But I do think it's something that the city needs to keep an eye on. And aside from that, I would like to say that it's been a lot of fun working for you. Thank you for the opportunity. I mentioned before the meeting began that everyone in my profession should have an opportunity to do an interim job before they ride off into the sunset for good.
And some need 2 times to practice.
I think I got it right finally the second time around.
Well, Dave, can I ask you a question? I'm going to ask it anyways. But now that you're, interim and, not hireable or fireable by us, if you can take your city manager hat off, what do you think your best advice for us, you outgoing, would be for us over the next few years as city council in Phoenix?
Wow, I wasn't quite prepared for that question. Well, number one, listen to your city manager and do as your city manager says. One thing that I would say is don't lose sight of your strategic plan. You all did a lot of work on that. I think you have a really good plan. It should probably be updated every 2 to 3 years. Remember that it's intended to be a living document and not something that just sits on a shelf. I think we've done a pretty good job of addressing what you identified as the priority goals. Now, when those priority goals are done, I think you need to go back and take a look at what you identified as the priority 2 goals and start talking about how you address those. But that would be pretty important, is that you not lose sight of that. Don't let it become something that just collects dust on a shelf.
Can you be hired to come back to run that process and facilitate in a couple of years?
I'm assuming I still have enough brain cells to do it. Sure.
Don't get hit in the head by a baseball.
Or golf ball. I think we go about consulting once in a while with us. We call you for a consulting type job, and you'd be open to it, not full-time interim, but.
Yeah. Okay. As long as you're not calling me when I'm in South America.
Well, I will jump out of South America. Okay, Dave, next question then. While you're being candid with us, Phoenix in general, direction of Phoenix next 5 or 10 years. What do you see our role in the valley, or our kind of identity in the valley?
Well, one thing that I would say is that the civility of discourse and the level of cooperation on the council it's light years beyond where the council was when I first came aboard. And this council, of course, you weren't on the council when I first came aboard, but
so that's the key difference, is what you're saying, Dave. That's the key difference.
With you, yeah.
I would say the council was borderline dysfunctional, and I think those of you who were here would probably agree with that statement. It's been a 180-degree sea change since that time, just listening to the way you communicate with each other and the way you work with each other. I frankly think that doing the strategic plan, again, going back to the strategic plan, was kind of a turning point for this group, because it did get you all on the same page. I think it did get you to understand that you really do share a lot of the same goals and the same values, and it got you just talking to each other in a way that was was very healthy for the group dynamic. I think Phoenix has tremendous potential. Especially downtown, I look at downtown Phoenix as kind of a blank palette. And one thing that I would caution is to be patient, which I know is hard because there's a natural tendency among elected officials, I'm being blunt with you, to want to make everything happen in their term of office. And being on a city council, it's a lot of work, and people don't like to think in terms of, oh, I'm going to serve for 12 years, and that'll happen in the next 12 years. Now, people are thinking, oh gosh, how much longer do I have to do this? You know, can I make everything happen before the next election? And you know, I see it. I saw that attitude in the discussion that we had about the updating the urban renewal plan and the downtown plan and doing the RFEI, and you want to go out for an RFEI this winter. I'm thinking, be patient. You know, the land it's not going away. It's still going to be there. The development opportunities are still going to be there, and in all things, it's important to do it right and not necessarily to do it fast. Again, and I've told this to a lot of people, you know, Ashland has become too expensive to develop in anymore. Phoenix, or Talent is running out of land. Medford is running out of land in their commercial area in South Medford. So what's going to happen? The developers are going to start going, oh, okay, where can we go? Well,
The
they're
heart
going
of
to
the
go
Rogue
to Phoenix.
Valley.
What's that?
The heart of the Rogue Valley, that's where
They're going to go to Phoenix, and I think you will see some very high quality redevelopment here. So it's going to happen, and I think you need to be patient and shepherd it as it comes along.
Thanks for those words of wisdom. Your lips to God's ears. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Councilor comments. Who wants to start?
Oh, I was just saying thanks to Dave. Nothing nobody has already told me. We don't want to heap too many accolades on it. You really did a good job for us. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, Dave, you kick ass, Dave. Get that on public record. Thanks. I don't need to hold back. One city rep update, talking with Gabe at graduation. This year has been really tough for Phoenix in the realm of leadership and the basically student council and stuff like that. It's been a lot of disarray. They haven't had a teacher there to sponsor it that's been able to do it. He met with Dawn, the principal, and Gabe's probably going to stay on. Priscilla's got other obligations, so they're talking about adding on one other student with Gabe, and they should be able to have a much stronger role in what's going on at the school next year. So I'm optimistic for next year they'll have a solid adult there to help them and be a little bit more in the fabric of what's going on in the school. So hopefully we'll get that going. Second in parade, the flyers are done. They have the correct dates on them. I forwarded them to you. And we're going to meet up this week and start the beautiful process that is known as the parade. By the way, if anyone has any extra time, the parade is a lot. And if you want to help out, Kimberly and I will give you leftover carrot cake for the next.
Yeah, I'll save it till October.
Yeah, save it till October. Yeah, we'll freeze it. Anyways, that's it. Updates.
But only if we have insurance.
Sure.
Of involved students.
I'm not in background checking about it.
That was a rough subject.
Once again, I express privately, but thank you very much for rescuing us twice. Nobody throws the life jacket twice. Thank you. The other thing is, a bit of humor here, but I'm going to have somebody remind me that on July 16th, I have to go to a different place for this meeting. And I'm going to come down here unless somebody tells me.
You can't remember.
I do Civic Center.
Oh.
So be aware that somebody needs to remind us. We all forget. The last thing is just a personal note. My wife asked me to take some things on Wednesday to the food pantry of the church. And they start at 12 and they run for a period of time. So I got there about 5 after 12 and there were no cars in the parking lot. And I looked around, so that's very strange, because usually when I come to do something like this, with donating stuff, there's a lot of people in there, a lot of cars. up there, Carol Hannon walks up, she just happened to be coming. And we say hi, and she says, what are you here for? I said, well, make some donations. She said, we don't have a Lindsay food pantry distribution anymore, we don't have enough volunteers. So somehow they've lost their volunteer food to nothing, they can't do Wednesday ones. They haven't. She did let me in the building, I did make a donation, but that's one of the things that now been suppressed a little bit through the community, one day less of distribution of all stuff. So I just want to let everybody know that they need volunteers there too, apparently. Thank you.
Stuart? Dave, thank you for it. And I'll see you tomorrow still, last meeting. Dave. We've got Parks Greenway Commission meeting Thursday night, here at 6:30. Anyone wants to attend? I don't know what's on the agenda yet. I'm sure it'll be busy. And let's see, something else yet. Still working on dog days this summer. Anyone has any suggestions or wants to help volunteer, please let me know. Or if anyone has a connection to the K-9 unit at the sheriff's office, please have a hard time tracking that. Let Debbie know.
Tracy Lenhart.
I gave him a call, I haven't heard back.
That's Tracy Lenhart.
Okay, I'll reach out to him again.
Yeah, well, what kind of dog do you want? You just want a dog? I mean, you
I
want
wasn't here.
drug dog?
A cute one.
I wasn't here until last year, but they, you know, they.
It's the same dog that I've had the last couple of years. I forget what kind of type of dog it is, but short hair, brown, and the guy with all the bag, the stuffing around, it looks like the Michelin Man.
Oh,
The dog
so
goes up and attacks
So you
him.
want the white dog?
Yes,
Okay.
that's really cool.
Okay, I will,
Nothing says it doesn't.
I'll make some calls.
Oh my God, thanks, Charlie. And Phoenix PD is gonna be there this year, so nice addition to Doug's summer.
Thank you, Dave. I also wanted to say thank you to Kimberlyn for organizing not only this great party, but I was just really excited to hear that we are getting our AmeriCorps member, so that we can have somebody to help staff and do programming in the Civic Center, which is awesome. So thank you for all your programming. Don't apply for Judy. We love you. I also just wanted to give a brief update from our UGB conversation and the CPAC conversation that's been going on. So I think I mentioned last time that we were going to pull together some stakeholders and have a conversation about the UGB expansion. So we did, myself, the mayor, Evan, Matt, we met up, and Dave met up with Josh LeBombard from DLCD, which is one of the agencies that yeses or nos our application. And then Greg Holmes with 1,000 Friends of Oregon, which is the land use planning and conservation organization that's like a nonprofit. And they often comment on these things. So we had a long conversation about kind of where we are with our application and kind of what they would like to see. We did have a discussion about the fact that we'll need to redo some of our calculations. Evan even agreed that this was a thing. So we need to redo some calculations having to do with our buildable land inventory, which essentially says how much land do we have in our existing city limits, because that will define how much of an expansion we can justify. And we also want to build a narrative around that. Like there may be buildable land, but they may not be suitable for development because ABC. So we talked about that. We also talked about one of the things that will impact our UGB application is population forecast that will come out of PSU at the end of this month. And from what we're hearing, that population forecast, we kind of overdid it, we overestimated in our housing needs analysis. So we'll have to go back and redo those numbers. So part of what the discussion has looked like, which I think makes sense, is that maybe we don't take in our whole, we may not be able to justify taking in our whole expansion area in one fell swoop. We may be able to justify doing it incrementally, which people make different arguments for, but could usher in more intentional development anyway. So we'll see. We still have to have conversations with some of the people who own the property in the expansion areas, ours and other developers, and kind of see what they're thinking about the process. But we just wanted to update from that meeting. And again, I think it's really important for us to continue building that relationship with those folks, and especially listen to DLCD, because they have authority to tell us yes or no. So we really have to be attuned to what they're saying and be responsive and make changes as necessary. So that's pretty much that. But the mayor was there also, so he did
It actually went better than I thought. The initial meeting, the reason I called all stakeholders together, is I thought that we weren't going to be able to have any land for housing, period, in PH5. As, you know, at the end of the conversation, we're at the point where we're talking, I think 50, 60 acres of land for housing, 130 or so for economic or employment land. So that was a good start. So I was pretty pleased in the meeting they were going to have a good chunk to start out with. And then you have to add it incrementally and prove that you need more land each time. And we tried to prove that, or talk about it being the housing crisis being a regional problem, and we need a regional solution, and then we had the regional problem solving over a 12-year period. And why not use that concept for housing land? You can't do it. They just look at each city individually, and you can't say we have a regional problem, let's take in more land to solve a regional problem. That's just going city by city by city by city. So it's kind of strange how the state does mandate how you can or cannot do things. It's a little bit frustrating. But I wasn't as frustrated as it was in the beginning of the meeting as the end of the meeting. So it went pretty well, actually. Is anybody going to the So Ready event on the 29th? That's the river trip. Anybody going? I may go. It's on Friday, 1:30, next week, the 29th at 1:30. We got a chamber board meeting we're going to attend on Wednesday, a couple nights from now. Talk about the peace poles are here. We have the 200th painter for the mural, the B City mural. We had 200 painters so far. It's kind of cool. Nice chunk of people that are participating. On Wednesday, the 6th, I went to the housing meeting over in Medford, and at the end of the meeting, I kind of concluded we don't have a housing crisis. The housing crisis is a temporary state of something happening. It's going to be a chronic condition. There's just so many intractable problems with housing and how the state handles things. I think it's going to be a long-term problem, not a crisis that can be sort of solved short-term. But it was a good give and take, and Joshua Bombard was there, everyone was there, Marcia Marceau, the little planner that was here earlier, the planning commission, he was there. It was a good give and take. About 3-4 hours. One other thing, you might want to check out Dorothy Cotton over at the Phoenix Museum. They're open from 1 to 5 each day. They have a kind of like a passport to different museums throughout the Rogue Valley, and I think some outlying areas also, where you get a passport, you hit different museums, and they ask certain questions, you get the answer. The answer's in the museum somewhere, it's kind of like you got to find it, and you put it in your passport, and if you win, they get tickets, you can win prizes. It's kind of a good conceptual thing to do with the kids, and get a lot of experience in the museums here in the area. And that was it. Again, go ahead.
Can I ask, at the chamber meeting?
Yes.
Can you, if you're okay with this, really emphasize to them the importance of establishing a good relationship with the new city manager? I feel like the chamber never made any effort to establish a relationship of any kind with me. And I think they need to understand that, especially if we're going to be partners in the Civic Center,
sure,
they need to work through the city manager.
Yep. There's a time when there's a lot of challenges personally going on with some people with the chamber. I think they're rebounding, and I'll express that. I think they're on the rebound, and I'll make that a point. Absolutely. Okay.
Where is the chamber meeting?
I don't know. The agenda comes out, I think tomorrow, or I don't know. They didn't say. Around here somewhere. But anyway, with that said, I'm going to adjourn.
Could I just ask, well, we still have Dave here, quick question.
Sure, absolutely.
Earlier tonight, they were talking about naming the mural which is on the wall. Do we have naming rights over something that's painted onto ODOT's facility? Because I think the structure it's on doesn't belong to us.
No, it doesn't, but we have an agreement with ODOT that allows us to do the project, and I would suspect that inherent in that is our right to name the mural.
Okay, so you don't think we have to have them do the official naming?
I wouldn't think so.
So I'll make sure.
All right, with that said, I'm going to adjourn the June 18th, 2018 City Council meeting. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dave.
Did you want to watch my live YouTube video there, Chief? It's live right now.
Sounds good.
Good.
Sure.
I'll go